So Kathy, can you put up our PowerPoint? And we'll get started.
And who are you?
Oh, I am David Cray. Welcome to Rsvl Rotary meeting. And I am substituting for Deb Nygaard, our president, who is had an emergency that came up. So we'll start with the flag pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will be beneficial to all concerned.
And is it fun?
And is it fun? There you go.
Yep.
And then Deb has been doing history. I don't know if we have a history thing or not, Kathy.
She didn't send one, so.
Oh, we don't have that. Okay. And then
No.
invocation. Do we have an invocation?
We had no
please.
volunteers for invocation this week. So,
Okay. And record reporter, we don't have a record reporter either.
correct.
Okay. We'll go on to guests. Our guests, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Alan Ruvelson from the West St. Paul Mendota Heights Club and retired from military service and law practice. Just got back from New Orleans.
Oh, welcome back.
Fun.
Thank you.
All right. How about Kay? You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Kay Baker. I'm in the Arden Hills Shoreview Rotary Club. I retired from Health East. I worked there for almost my entire career.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Thanks for joining us. I guess we're kind of quick. We're going to announcements. So, Kay, you have an announcement. Why don't you go ahead and do yours first?
Yeah, I'll do a real quick one. Excuse me. So the Arden Hills Shoreview Rotary Club is doing a virtual cooking class with Ken Galloway, and Ken has been a general manager and a chef, executive chef at all the country clubs, Wayzata, Edina, White Bear Yacht Club, and so on. He now has his own company where he does all these virtual cooking classes. And our Rotary did one last year as something to do for a fundraiser during COVID when we couldn't all meet together. And it was very successful. And it was very fun. He showed you how to, he was at his home. He showed you how to cook a really good beef tenderloin. And then he also told you step-by-step how to make a Yule log cake. People got all the ingredients in advance and you could either cook along with him or we sent out the video afterward. So we're doing another one on Wednesday, May 19th. Is there any way you could pull up our flyer? I sent it to Deb, but you probably don't have it. But I wonder, Kathy, do you have a copy by any chance?
It's in my emails. It'll be, I can send it around to
That would be
everyone.
great. If you could send it around to everybody, that'd be super. Okay, so it's Wednesday, May 19th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. He's going to be doing a grilled Atlantic salmon, and he's doing a medley of grilled vegetables, grilled peaches. This is gonna be interesting. And also do the wine pairings. He's also got whatever that degree is you have when you know everything about wine. So anyway, you can register right by the flyer. It's $25. And I know I saw Lynn Megan in there somewhere. It seemed like, and she, I know, was at the last one we had, and maybe she could throw in a comment, but he does a very good job. He's just an excellent chef. So we'd love to see you.
Okay. Thank you, Kay. We'll get the information out to our members.
Okay.
It is a great time, except that when I went to make the Yule log with my best friend the following weekend, it was a flop. So he's an amazing chef. So I highly recommend it. And it's fun. It's just fun to, hang out with them and stuff. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and he's also a White Bear Rotarian. I'll throw that in the mix.
Hey, is this event on your club website?
It's on our club website, and I can send you something too, Alan. I'd love to have you, the West St. Paul people there. That'd be great. It's
Okay.
fun.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Kay. I have a few announcements, and we have happy dollars maybe we'll do. So we talked about it a little quick, but the board decided to hold off on in-person virtual hybrid meetings. We're going to revisit it every month at our board meetings, but we're going to hold off until CDC changes their guidelines. Hopefully that happens next month or two here. Community service, we have lots of opportunities for people to volunteer. the Are You Hungry? I think that is ending really soon or just ended. I'm not sure, Lynn, if you're still collecting anything or not.
Yeah, we haven't done very good with it, club, sorry to say. So we do
Oh.
have, it does go to the end of the month. So this week, if anyone still wants to drop off, again, it's, packaged primarily treats, water, things like that. And then I'd get it to Glenn if we get anything. So please participate if you can.
All right, so we're actually partnering with Arden Hills Shoreview on quite a few projects. That's one. And then the other one is the planting life cycle project. So there's a sign up sheet now going around on Sign Up Genius for the Rotary Rain Garden planting and cleanup. We're going to plant some plants, clean up the rain garden. That's going to be this Thursday, the 29th from 11 to noon. You can sign up at Science Genius, or if you want to just throw it in the chat right now, we can get your name down too for helping with the rain garden cleanup. And then also all through the summer, we're going to do the at the Y, the community garden there and the vegetable garden. And we're going to start planting this Saturday, May 1st. There'll be 2 shifts, one from 9 to 10:30 and the other one's 10:30 to noon. And there's a sign up, an email went out with the Sign Up Genius so you can look at. We're also looking at the 3-mile walk run for the Suburban Ramsey Emergency Coalition. That's May 9th to 16th. That's something that we partnered with Arden Hills, Shoreview, and also. And this coming May 8th, we're going to have the Snelling Avenue Road cleanup from 9 to noon. Meet at Grumpy's, watch the safety video. And that's coming up not this weekend, but the following weekend. I'd like to also announce some grants that we just approved at our board meeting. There's a $500 grant going to Rosemary High School Band to purchase and repair instruments. There's a $500 Days for Girls grant that was used to purchase material for more sanitary kits to send over to Africa. $300 to support the planting life cycle. So it's going to be used for purchasing seeds and some plants for the rain garden and some plants for the vegetable garden. And then $500 for the Naka Valley project for their anniversary celebration. And those are the grants that I remember offhand from our meeting. With that, I think we have time for happy dollars. Anybody have any happy dollars they want to share?
I'll go ahead and do some happy dollars actually in honor of Kay Baker, because Kay ran, I'm with the Scouts, and Kay ran the Explorer post for
Oh my goodness.
years, a long time ago when I was also a part of that. That was one of my staff responsibilities. And so thank you, Kay, for all your service for so many years for the Explorer post.
Well, my gosh, good to hear that. Thank you very much.
Small world.
Oh my
Anybody
God.
else?
I think I've got a credit there yet. Liz and I celebrated 57 years of wedded bliss a week ago. And so we'll put $57 in the pot for that.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? All right,
Dave,
let's go.
Dave,
Oh,
sorry, I was trying to get unmuted.
it's fine.
I guess I've got to follow up with Tom. On April 28th in 1975, I started working at the school district. I'm still working there. So I guess I got to put $46 into the pot.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jan. Congratulations on that. That's a nice run for you.
It's amazing that they didn't fire me.
You can't get out of there. You want to retire, but they won't let you go. You're so good. Okay, with that, anybody else?
This is Maria. Hi.
Hi, Maria. Go ahead.
I would like to put in 20 happy dollars in expectations of better weather for the month of May than we had here in April. And also we have been authorized to start working on the water grant for the Dominican Republic. So once we have more information as to how that is going to proceed, I'd like to bring it to the club. But thank you for everyone involved and everybody that had faith in us in getting it done.
Yes, thank you. A great project. Hopefully get going on that soon. Anybody else have any happy hours? All right, Jenny, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest speaker today, our presentation.
Absolutely. Well, I'm pleased to say that today we have Marcus Pope joining us from Youth Prize. He is Vice President, and he oversees grant making, development, policy, advocacy, communication, special initiatives. He's definitely the go-to guy over there. And they're celebrating even that he's one of the 40 under 40 this year, which was really, really cool as well. So Youth Prize, their initiative is to increase equity with and for Minnesota Indigenous, low income, and racially diverse youth. So Marcus, tell us a little bit about what's going on these days.
Thank you, Jenny, for this opportunity to speak, and thank you all for having me. Thanks, Jan. Please thank Kim for all of her hard early work to support Youth Prize. She was a part of a team that hired me over 9 years ago. One thing that's not in my bio is that our founding president, Woki Wia, is retiring, and as a part of that transition, I'll be taking over next year as the president of Youth Prize, so that's really exciting news. I've told folks as I've talked to different groups that I've never been more proud to be at Youth Prize than now. This has been a difficult time for our team and for our community, but we've held on. You know, even with everything that's going on with COVID, with civil unrest, with a reckoning around racial injustice, we've stayed firm and we've stayed committed to our mission. We're a fairly diverse staff. Over 70% of our staff represent people of color. With the recent incidents around the shooting and killing of unarmed Black men, we have 3 Black males on staff. We have 3 mothers of Black children on staff. In the midst of everything, we still are committed to doing the work. As I was preparing for this presentation, my heart has been heavy given everything that's going on, and it's been a tough emotional time. So I wanted to start by giving you kind of a little personal flavor of who I am. I wrote a response to the George Floyd incident last year. And so it's almost a year later. And so I'll read the beginning of that, and then I'll tie it in very quickly to our mission and go through our mission, our vision, our activities. So just bear with me for a second. And it's entitled, Dada, What Color Was George? While getting ready to leave our St. Paul home, I wanted to prepare my 6-year-old daughter for what we would encounter. I told her people are really upset. Things will look different. Buildings will be boarded and some stores will be burned. She asked, why are people upset? I explained that a police officer hurt a man really badly and he died. She then asked his name. I told her his name was George. She repeated his name and asked if I cried about George. I told her no. She then said, but you cried when your dad died. I then explained that although I didn't cry about George, I was really sad and hurt. As we proceeded to drive away, she asked if the police officer was white. I quickly responded, yes. She quickly replied, I knew it. Then the inevitable question entered the conversation. Dada, what color was George? I paused, took a deep breath, and responded, brown. As you can imagine, the conversation with my smart and inquisitive 6-year-old became ever more difficult. The conversation was difficult for several reasons, but largely because it surfaced my greatest fear. The fear that I would one day lose my life at the hands of the police and my daughter would be left without a father. The fear that someone who is supposed to protect and serve would one day strip me of the opportunity to see and nurture my daughter's growth and development. The moment struck me as I came to realize that my daughter may one day soon, if not already, share my fear. I'll put the link in the chat to the full blog if you choose to read it. But essentially, as I work to share my screen and get up for my presentation, our mission is really about addressing the underlying issues that create circumstances like we have in our community with civil unrest, with the murders and deaths of unarmed Black men, with all of the inequality that we have in our community. We're working to increase equity with and for Minnesota's Indigenous, low-income, and racially diverse youth. Jan's wife would know our early mission was around learning beyond the classroom so that all Minnesota youth thrive. As we really looked at the landscape, it became very clear that our work with young people, with and for, which is critical, which I'll tell you about, had to center equity in reducing disparities in our community. Because one of the issues that we have is that we lead the nation across pretty much every outcome area in disparities between whites and people of color, and particularly whites and Blacks. If it's health, if it's education, if it's home ownership, we're at the bottom when it comes to inequity. With our mission being with and for, that's really critical too, because we believe in engaging those most impacted in our mission. So half of our board is comprised of young people between the ages of 16 and 25. One of the causes and consequences of inequity in our community, from our perspective, is the fact that those most impacted by the problem are not engaged adequately in the solution development stage. We think that people need to be engaged from accountability standpoint, but also from a standpoint of they have the answers to their own problems and they can be contributors to addressing their own problems. Our vision is we envision a Minnesota where outcomes for youth are no longer predictable by race, geography, or socioeconomic status. We're a statewide organization. We support young people all across the states impacted by inequity, and that includes Greater Minnesota. We work to bridge divides between Greater Minnesota and our urban community here, and I'll share a little bit more about that. So our core activities, what we do is we help organizations and those that seek to impact youth serve more and to serve them more effectively. We also work to hold systems accountable and support systems in being more accountable to serving young people. So what we do is we mobilize and invest resources dedicated to increasing equity by giving grants and other investments to networks, organizations, and young people doing this work. So we're a re-granter, but we're not a traditional re-granter. We were founded by the McKnight Foundation, so we have flexible resources, which allows us to support community organizations and systems and initiatives that impact young people. But we also play a huge role in leveraging public resources that otherwise would go unutilized if we didn't play a certain role. So during the pandemic, you'll hear me talk about this, we served over 1 million meals to young people at community centers, churches, rec centers who were in need of food, and food insecurity has been at its heights during this pandemic. And we do that by stepping in and playing a role to help programs access dollars that otherwise would be out of reach because of the administrative burden, the compliance burden to figuring out how to manage the program. We also advance knowledge and advocate for change. And that involves conducting research, advancing policy advocacy, facilitating training, peer learning opportunities, as well as sharing media. If you follow the news, we were really active during the pandemic in supporting high school students who lost wages due to the pandemic and were unable to secure unemployment benefits. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But we had a legal victory, and now we're working at the legislature for a legislative victory in order to change a state law that dates back as early to 1939, which prohibits young people from securing unemployment benefits. We believe that, there's a lot of talk currently about addressing injustice and equity and how it's important for everybody and for us to thrive as a state. We believe that any conversation that's focused on that needs to center young people. Our young population is our most racially and ethnically diverse population if you look across age cohorts in Minnesota. And so we need to be intentional about creating a shared prosperity among young people if we're going to be a prosperous state into the future. So we have 3 impact areas that we're trying to impact in our community. The first is learning and leadership development. The second is economic opportunity. And the third is health and safety. With learning and leadership development, we work to promote learning, leadership, and the social emotional development of youth and seek to shift how programs engage youth in leadership and governance. I talked about how we model young people being on our board and having leadership opportunities. In fact, our board co-chair she's a senior now at Cornell, and she's been on our board since the age of 16 and has grown and matured and into a leadership role on our board, and will be rolling off because her second term will be complete. But we model young people having leadership opportunities. All of our board, our committees are co-chaired by a young person, and we define young people for this purpose of our board as between the ages of 16 and 25. We also support communities in engaging young people. One of my favorite examples of that is the work we've done in Northfield to really support them in engaging young people in city level boards and commissions. So they have over 100 young people on city level mayor appointed boards and commissions, really engaged in the fabric of their community, and we help serve as a catalyst to that work. The second area of impact for us is economic opportunity. And this is about helping programs build workforce skills, promote youth entrepreneurship, and expose youth to career pathways. One thing we've done as an organization, as I mentioned, that supports others in being more effective, efficient, and serving young people is we worked with the city of Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, which is actually going through a lot right now, and we're working to support them as well with the current situation. But we helped them establish the first citywide youth employment initiative in a Twin Cities suburb. And so hundreds of young people have had summer workforce experience due to our initial investment in us going to city leaders and saying, hey, we will invest if you will invest, and you will maintain that investment over the long haul. And their city leaders recognize the benefit of really getting young people connected to careers and jobs. It's a whole lot better than in other, alternatives. And so they're doing some great work in that area. Our third impact area is health and safety. And this is really championing programs that promote the holistic health and safety of young people by meeting basic needs and ensuring young people aren't criminalized in their community. And in this area, we've helped decrease across the state the number of young people in secure confinement that don't pose a threat to public safety. We've done a lot to work with communities to find alternatives to police being first responders when young people are hanging out and maybe doing things that may scare others or may be problematic, but don't rise to the level where you need a law enforcement officer with a gun. So we help expand an initiative in St. Paul called the Community Ambassadors Initiative, where there's youth outreach workers that are first responders. I've heard the former police chief of St. Paul say, this initiative has saved lives, and I believe it. And we're expanding that in Minneapolis as well through a federal grant we were able to leverage. We have some guiding principles. Hold on, my allergies, I'm sorry, I just need to do this. It's that season, so I apologize. We have some guiding values that hopefully are very clear from hearing me speak for the first few minutes. We're youth-centered, we're about equity, we're about self-sustainability, and we're also about impact. And you'll hear a little bit more about the impact as I get into our COVID response. So let me tell you about what we did in 2020 with the pandemic. So we have a nutrition program. I talked about our work. We're not chefs at Youth Prize, but folks came to us years ago because they recognized that there were millions of dollars not being utilized to help kids and families get access to food in the context of after-school learning program, after-school enrichment programs, and after-school learning programs. And so what we do is we handle the administration, the compliance, we pay for food up front. We work with a vendor to make sure the meals meet the required meal pattern. We help the different sites, over 70 sites over the course of a year, get the health department regulations they need to meet in order to be certified as food sites. And we get the food to to the different sites every day, almost 363 days a year. We're getting food out. And as you know, times when young people aren't in school is when food insecurity rises. So that's why we're active most days of the year. So during the pandemic, we reached our 2 millionth meal mark in October. What makes that so amazing is we began the program in 2014, and it took us until the beginning, January of 2020, to hit 1 million meals. So the pandemic created a need where we served 1 million meals in less than 12 months to families in need. Equitable distance learning, as you all know, everything as we're in this meeting in a remote fashion, schools went remote early on. And many young people didn't have access to Chromebooks. And a lot of districts didn't have Chromebooks for every student, or if they had Chromebook initiatives, it was one per family. And so what we did is we used underutilized tax credit to get over 1,300 laptops to families. It's the Minnesota education K-12 education tax credit. If fully utilized, this credit would be at $275 million if fully utilized, but only about $12 to $15 million is utilized on an annual basis. So we help families access that credit. The cutoff point, the income limit cutoff point is $33,000. So a family that makes over $33,500 is not eligible for the credit. And so these are really low income families that we're helping, and there's a family contribution. So what we did is we scholarships the family contribution, and we provided a no interest, no obligation, no fee loan to be able to access the credit. And then we distributed laptops to families. There's a lot of paperwork. Thank you, Sunrise Bank. You're our banking partner when it comes to the custodial accounts we have with families to be able to play the role we play through the credit. We also helped a lot of families use the credit to access tutoring. Distance learning was challenging. As you know, I have a 7-year-old, and so I was teaching for a while, and I have kind of a quasi-education background, but it was still very challenging to work and provide distance support and distance learning, and other families are experiencing, similar or greater challenges. So we helped use the credit to help provide over $150,000 in tutoring services for families all over the state. Over 200 cities we've reached through this initiative, which is called Minnesota After School Advance, to help families with distance learning. And with advocacy, our advocacy work, we spent a lot of time working with young people who were high school students who were laid off, who weren't able to secure unemployment benefits. And so we worked very closely in our legislature and with our governor's office to try to get temporary relief. We didn't have any success with that. And we also worked with our congressional delegation to try to get some relief, and everything was sort of gridlock with the election year and with, us having a divided government, that we couldn't get much done. And so we filed a lawsuit against the state, not because of our state law, but because of their implementation of the federal pandemic unemployment assistance program. You may or may not know that as a part of the CARES Act, there was a federal program to help folks who don't qualify for state benefits. And our argument was that given that young people aren't eligible for state benefits, they should be eligible for federal benefits. And the appeals court agreed with us, and we won that lawsuit, and over $30 million has since been paid out to young high school workers all across the state. And this was a prime example of us supporting youth leaders across the state who really stepped up, and we supported them in winning this lawsuit. And it's leading to tangible benefits clearly for young people and for our communities and our businesses, because young people like to spend their money. And in a lot of cases, they need to spend their money because they're supporting their families, some of which whose parents who have lost their jobs. What we're doing now, and this is a really busy week for us, is we're working to change that state law. We have the governor's support, we have the House support in the House, and we have support in the Senate. So we have bipartisan support for this issue, and we're working to help educate our business leaders on the what we believe to be negligible implications towards the UI trust and towards the total package in terms of how businesses will be impacted. We're very supportive of our local businesses. We're a member of the St. Paul Chamber, and we think that our granting benefits for young people who employers pay into the unemployment system on their behalf. We believe it's good business, and we should support our young workers. As you know, our young workers are our lowest paid. They're clearly our youngest workers, and they're our most racially and ethnically diverse cohort of workers. And so if we want to promote equity, if we want to have a shared prosperity now and into the future, we need to step up and support our young workers. So that's my pitch there. Call your legislator. Investing in partners. Another thing we had to do because of everything with the pandemic is we had to really double down and support our partners across the state, many who are in the metro area with additional resources. So we leveraged beyond kind of our typical, $4 million in investments we make. We leveraged an additional $1.2 million to support organizations and heavily support organizations led by people of color and community-based, community-centered grassroots organizations. We had some organizations who lost their buildings due to the unrest in Minneapolis, and we stepped up and provided a little support there to help. Or they lost their files and had damages. And with COVID, there were other requirements to continue services like PPE needs, better ratios for distance, better ratios for safely resuming programming. So we're very active, and actually we eclipsed over $8 million in investments in different programs and initiatives if you count our work in getting food to communities. So we're very busy. What was really exciting to see is that, and I'll turn my screen off, was the grassroots support we received in order to meet our mission. Grassroots support from groups like our local Rotaries and from individuals really helps show that we have broad community support. Our role is about leveraging big dollars to support communities, which we do a great job of, but it's great to see community step up and support our work. One thing we're doing now, and then I'll be quiet and open it up for questions, is we're working with Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center School District. Given everything that's going on, there's a need for healing for the community. And so we've worked to, and there are all these GoFundMes, which everybody does. And when they raise like $100,000, they don't know what to do with it. And they don't know how to effectively and responsibly deploy it. So we're working with them to help them deploy those resources to meet the needs of families. We have families that are being displaced because of the activism. We have grocery stores closed, so there's need for food and hygiene items and different things like that. And there's just a need to help young people who are dealing with this, along with many other things, deal with those challenges. And so we're there for our partner in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, who we've worked with over the years since the beginning. But any questions? I hope I didn't take too much time. I think I worked within the time limit, which sometimes can be tough for me when talking about Youth Prize.
Marcus,
Thank you. Hey, Galen, go ahead.
very interesting program. Thanks for what you're doing for the community. Sounds like you have a very large organization. How many full-time employees, part-time employees, and volunteers do you have?
So we have 22 staff, and we have about 6 part-time employees that are typically young people who serve as interns and fellows throughout the year. So we have a small but mighty staff. When you look at our work, we had $11 million in activity last year. And so when you look at our ratio of like administrative and fundraising versus program and what we do and resources we get out, we have a very good ratio, and we try to be really good stewards of our resources. We constantly are on, in terms of Charities Review Council, we have their seal, and we just reached our platinum seal for GuideStar, which is sort of a good housekeeping seal for nonprofits. So we have a small but mighty staff, and we're stretched.
Any other questions?
Dave, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Marcus, how did you guys, I know the answer to this a little bit, but could you just go into a little bit of how Youth Prize got started?
Yep.
What organization or what brought it together?
Yeah, so we were founded a little over 10 years ago by the McKnight Foundation. McKnight has a long history of investing in youth development and out of school time and learning beyond the classroom for young people. And about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, they wanted to do something different to have a greater impact on young people throughout the state. So they did a lot of early work, and Kim Vanderwall was very, instrumental in that work to really do to look into the feasibility of starting an independent organization that could take more risks, be nimble, and address, policy and system related issues that impact young people. And so after that feasibility work, they made a big commitment to establishing Youth Prize. And early on, I'll never forget this, the vice president at the McKnight Foundation said to us, myself and Woki Wia, who's the outgoing president and our founding CEO, he said, if you do what we could have done, you will have failed. So that was a charge to be different, to be bold, and to really engage young people differently, which we're doing, and to take risks. And believe me, when most of your resources come from the state and you decide with young people to sue the state because you know what they're doing is wrong, that's being bold, And so we did that, and it's translated into great benefits for young people across the state. And that's, we feel like we're honoring that legacy that that McKnight has kind of birthed in us. Thanks, Jan, for that question.
Any
Marcus,
other
I'd like
questions?
to take your program, that what you're doing today, my club, West St. Paul, Mendota Heights. We're part of a couple of different 5960 constellations. There's the St. Paul group of the state that share a common assistant governor. We're also in a Dakota County grouping. So what you talked about, I think my club would really be interested in.
Okay, wonderful.
So I'll get back.
Get him before he's
Okay.
president.
Okay. Well, I can put my info in the chat. Always willing to connect and meet with people and follow up.
Thank you.
And then I put also the blog if you're interested in reading it in the chat as well.
Got that. Okay.
Mary Jo, you're muted.
David, yeah. Hi, Marcus. I'm Mary Jo McGuire. I'm a Ramsey County Commissioner. I just appreciate all the work that you all do. You're just amazing. I know you work with our Suburban Family Collaborative, or North Suburban Family Collaborative, and you've and all the partnerships that you do form. So just thanks so much for all of that. And I want to ask a question, but I don't know what to ask. And I'm just thinking, is there something else we should know that you didn't talk about? Like, is there a great program that we should, maybe some examples of things that, and how can we contribute? How can we, you do get a combination of private, public and nonprofit sector funding, right? And you have fundraisers and things. Just how else can we help? But talk a little bit about all the great work that you do.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we do value our partnership with Ramsey County. One of the things that we do, we work very closely with the Corrections Department to support families on probation. We started a partnership early on when we learned that 1/3 of folks on probation, of young people on probation in Ramsey County, were between the ages of 10 and 13. And one of the risk factors, the major kind of risk factors, is doing poorly in school and not having access to quality after school activities and just family instability. And so we've done a lot of work with the county to help support young people and their families. We have an individualized support partnership where we help families in crisis meet their needs very quickly. We've also stepped up recently, given the George Floyd trial and everything going on. We kind of work with the county behind the scenes to help support community healers. And so they're using our infrastructure to get resources out quick because the county's big and it's hard to do that. So I don't know if you even knew about that, Commissioner, but that's another role we're playing. The other thing we've done, I mentioned Sunrise Bank and our partner, and that they're our partner, our financial partner when it comes to custodial accounts for low-income families that are eligible for the Minnesota Education Tax Credit. That is an amazing program that we're expanding this year, and it really helps families. The stated poverty lines are always too low, when it comes to need and everything, and so we really feel good about that program. We're helping families access tutoring, after-school activities, driver's education. So that's really a huge benefit. We're working to secure a major investment to be able to help another 1,000 families this year that we otherwise wouldn't be able to help. So if you guys have one thing to do, I would go look up Minnesota After School Advance. There's a video on that website. We partner with the Venn Foundation, and we're doing some amazing stuff with families, supporting families that really need it all across the state. And that's one example of just, making a difference one family at a time. So please check that.
Marcus, could you share an idea or a program that you're looking to get started that originated with one of the youth that's on your board?
So I can tell you some things so clearly our work around advocacy for unemployment benefits, that was driven by young people. Young people aren't involved in kind of all of our decisions that we make, but our nutrition program where we handle all the compliance, the regulations for different programs, that was something that there was a coalition called Hunger Free Minnesota about 6 years ago that established. And they were looking at food insecurity, mostly for children. And they came to us because they wanted us to help them publicize grants they were giving to individual organizations to be able to participate in the program. They gave the individual organizations grants to participate, and they still didn't participate because the hoops they had to go through and the administrative burden was too great. So then they came back to us and they said, can you handle all of that burden for all these organizations? And this was in the early days of Youth Prize, and we looked at them and we said, are you crazy? That's too much. You want us to carry all this burden for all these families? And so there was a young person that looked at our president, Woki, and said, I can't be brilliant if I'm hungry. And it was the words of that young person that made us take that leap of faith and say, you know what, we have to do this, And it really shaped kind of our direction in terms of how we step in and we're a resource for programs and systems to help them work better and to be more accountable for families. The words of that young person had a tremendous impact on our strategy and our direction and our growth and our ability to play a role during this pandemic that was clearly needed around food insecurity. So I think that's a good example there. Thanks for the question. We also do a lot of work around youth philanthropy, youth leadership. I mentioned our Youth on Boards work, but there's two strands of our work, and it's really about the first strand, really working with systems to be more accountable and to help remove barriers to accessing systems. And the other work is innovating in how we engage young people in our work.
Any other questions? With that, Marcus, thank you for your very interesting presentation and all your great work that you've been doing with this wonderful program supporting our community. We really appreciate that. So the Roseville Rotary makes a contribution to the Roseville Rotary Woods and Rain Garden at the Central Park Arboretum in honor of our speakers. So we'll do that in honor of your speaking, Marcus.
Thank you much. Appreciate it.
I appreciate that. And then Jenny, you want to let us know who's going to come speak our presentation for next week?
Yeah, and thank you, Marcus, for being here today. Really appreciate it. Next week, we have Karen Schwab. She's the Director of Community Education over at Roseville. And she's going to speak to us a little bit about what's going on with the Fairview Alternative High School and the site over there. So right in our backyard.
Sounds great. Okay, with that, everybody have a great afternoon. Thanks for joining us today.